everyone! I'm not going to apologize for my long absence or promise that from now on these videos will become more regular, because I can make no such promise. I do, however, want to explain this long gap between videos, and that was due to my graduation. I finished my degree in uni, I graduated in medicine, and yes, now I am a qualified doctor. I can actually prescribe stuff and everything. So in this video I really wanted to tell you guys a little bit about my experience in uni. How does it feel to graduate, finally become a doctor, and what is it going to be like for me from now on. Maybe even give some advice. This won't be specific to med students or anything. I think this can apply to anyone who is going through uni and struggling. In my country, Brazil, we spend 6 years in med school, and then when we graduate we are considered qualified doctors, and then we have to pass a residency exam to enter a residency program. So residency is when you specialize in a certain field of medicine. It can last for 2 years or 6 years, it really depends. I actually spent 7 years in uni because I decided to take like a gap year and spent 1 year in an exchange program in Scotland. That was really wonderful for me. If you have the chance to go abroad, study in a different country, immerse yourself in a different culture, practice a different language, I really recommend it. It's a life-changing experience. But now I'm finally done with uni and I'm going to start my residency program in March. There will be another 2 years and I'm really excited to get started. I just passed my exam and I am doing my residency in family medicine. I've been through a lot of crises during my 7 years in med school. I thought about giving up so many times. I thought, this is not for me, I really don't want to do that. But then I thought, what else could I be doing? I really don't see myself doing anything else. I love books, I love talking about books, I love reading about the publishing industry, but even though that's a passion of mine, I think I can only see myself working as a health professional. And that's another thing I want to make clear, like, you can have multiple interests. That's not something you see very often in med school. I think people are sort of used to the idea that if you're going to be a doctor, you have to love medicine and medicine only. And you can like reading sometimes, but you're not gonna have too much time for reading because you have to be reading the medicine textbooks. And you can like films, but you're not going to have a lot of time to go to the movies. So everything in your life becomes secondary, even your own family, because your profession has to be like everything in your life. And I completely disagree with that vision. I think you become a better professional if you are a more complete human being, and your profession solely is not going to define you as a human being. You can be a doctor and also like photography or films or art or cooking or anything, and you can really dedicate yourself to these passions. They are not mutually exclusive. And I think this goes for any profession. You can be a lawyer and also love playing basketball, for example. And you can be a lawyer who loves playing basketball and who also loves medieval art. Who knows? Human beings are limitless. So that said, I think it's really important that you don't give up the things you like during uni. Obviously, you're not going to have as much time as you had before to dedicate to this other interests, but I think it's important to make time in your life for these other things. It's important to make time to spend with your family, with your friends. Don't study all the time, it's not going to help you. You're not going to be a better doctor if you knew the footnotes of every textbook. Let's just be clear, I'm not saying don't study, just don't make it the center of your life, because you're not going to be happy. And in my experience, unhappy people do not tend to be the best people to treat others. Don't give up the things you love, but also don't give up uni. Like I said, you are going to go through crises. They are completely normal, everybody has them. Just try to keep motivated, talk to your friends about this. I feel like sometimes people are afraid to share these kinds of feelings because they feel inadequate and they think talking about it makes other people think they are inadequate. But that's not true. Everybody feels the same way at a certain point. And it's really important to share it, and then everyone supports each other. It's really nice to have a support network in uni with your friends. It's good to have a nice relationship with your professors. Try to avoid toxic people because they are everywhere and they're going to try to make you believe you are inferior, you are not good enough, you do not belong there. But that's not true. You are as much deserving as any of them. And usually people who act that way are really insecure, so they're just projecting their own insecurities on you. Finally, I wanted to share with you some of the books I read throughout these years that I think in a way helped me become the doctor I am today. So these are books that either have medicine as one of their major themes, or that have a main character who happens to be a doctor or act as a healer in a certain context. The first and most obvious one is The Physician. This is an old Brazilian edition. It belongs to my mom, who is also a doctor, and she loved this book and she recommended it to me so many times, and when I finally read it, it really made me fall in love with medicine again. This is about a young boy in medieval Europe who really wants to become a physician, but he's poor, and in that time the med schools were only for very upper class, rich people. So he finds out that there's a school in the Middle East that only received Jewish or Muslim students. So he pretends to be Jewish to go to that school. And in that time the Middle East was far more advanced in the fields of medicine and science and everything than the West. So he actually learns a lot of useful stuff to become a doctor there. And it's a beautiful journey, wonderfully written, very detailed. You can tell the author did a lot of research. And there is also a movie adaptation, I think it's German. I didn't like it that much. Not as much as the book. It wasn't very faithful to the source material, and that doesn't usually bother me in adaptations, but in this case it did, because I think they left some important stuff out. It's Frankenstein by Mary Shelley. It's about so much more than the limits of science. I think it's really about human nature, and the reason I put this on this list is first because Victor Frankenstein, the title character, not the monster, is actually a doctor. And the second and most important is because this book is really important to me. It really helped me see human nature in a different way. Especially in medicine, we can become too arrogant, and I think it's important to be humble. It's important to learn from your patients. You do not know everything. Do not distance yourself like Frankenstein does with his creature. You have to be responsible for the decisions you make and their consequences. So another of my all-time favorites, it's World Without End by Ken Follett. This book is actually a sort of sequel to The Pillars of the Earth, but you don't actually have to have read Pillars of the Earth before to understand it, because it's set like 200 years after that, so the characters are sort of descendants from the characters in Pillars of the Earth, but that doesn't really matter anything to the story. And it's set in the fictional town of Kingsbridge in the 14th century, and one of the main characters, she's called Caris, she wants to become a healer. As you can imagine, as a woman in the Middle Ages, that wasn't a very likely destiny for her. But she works her way, and I love her journey, and I love the details, and I love the information about medical knowledge at the time, and I just love the whole girl wanting to be a doctor in a time that girls weren't supposed to want to be anything other than housewives. So the feminist in me really screamed with joy with this character. Now the last one is something probably a lot of you already know because of the Starz TV show. It's Outlander. I love both the show and the books, although I have stopped reading the books halfway through the 5th one because I sort of think the series got lost. But the first one is very, very good. I still recommend it. And the main character, Claire, travels back 200 years in time, so she goes to Scotland in the 18th century. Previously in her life, Claire had been a nurse in the Second World War. She has a lot of practical knowledge about treating wounds and such, and she also has an interest in herbs and plants and flowers, and especially their medical uses. So when she goes back in time, she uses a lot of these knowledge. And I love Claire, her strength, her intelligence, her determination. So this is it for today. I hope you guys liked it. Please let me know what you think about this video in the comments, if you've read any of these books, or if you've read other books that also deal with medicine or have characters that work as physicians. Please, I would love to hear your recommendations. Just leave them all in the comments below. And don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel. So thanks for watching.